Well, welcome back. Talking more about Reconstruction here, and with all of these amendments, especially the 15th Amendment, basically giving African Americans the right to vote, you can see on the map here that political participation is increasing for African Americans in pretty much every state. And there's some states that you see that don't have a huge degree of political participation by African Americans. But in some ways, this was an effort by the Republicans to make sure that African Americans could vote in the elections and to impact the politics of the situation. And what you see here is a few of the changes that come into effect with the United States government here as we allow African Americans the right to vote. And over here, these are your first two black senators, and these are some House members as well. And black senators and House members served their constituents with grace, and black and white, and did a great job. This is a tremendous watershed moment in American history, going from slavery to freedom to voting and to political participation in politics. This scared many whites in the South because they were worried that this is going to mean the end of their rule, and of course the color issue, the race issue, was very prominent. And what we see here is a picture of Harper's Weekly, kind of caricaturing colored rule in the South. The biggest fears of white folks, as you can see, this guy's really scared that these African Americans are ruining their country, and that was the big fear. And so what ended up happening was whites in the South took out their anger based on their fear on African Americans through various means. One is through lynching. As you can see here, the number of lynchings in the South was very high between the years of Reconstruction and onward, all the way up until the 1950s, in part because Congress never passed an anti-lynching law that actually penalized that kind of behavior. Also, a group called the Ku Klux Klan was formed after Reconstruction, and that same year a group called the NRA was formed. And I don't know if that had anything to do with each other, but the Ku Klux Klan was simply a secret organization designed to basically commit acts of terrorism and to scare African Americans and to terrorize them, especially from voting and especially from becoming active politically. Like all federal policies, things come to an end, and in 1877, Reconstruction will be abandoned because of a few different things. First of all, President Grant's administration is not a very good administration in terms of finishing what they start, or the fact that Grant is probably one of the most corrupt politicians in the history of the United States, various money schemes being at the heart of his administration. In 1873, 4 years before the end of Reconstruction officially, you have a financial panic that is going to cause businesses to fail, the stock market to crash, and the attention of the politicians is simply going to be on how to deal with that. And so it's going to be seen as too costly and expensive to deal with Reconstruction. Also, the country is heavily expanding westward and heavily getting more involved fighting Native Americans. As you can see here, it says Indian Wars. And so all of that is to say the politicians' emphasis is going to be on controlling and saving the country first, in terms of different regions, whether it's the North and the West, but certainly maybe not the South. And so some concluding notes about Reconstruction. Reconstruction did a lot of things, and I think it set the stage for industrialism and economic development in the North and South. Because in all that investment by the Freedmen's Bureau, perhaps, as well as the political laws that took place, 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, you do have the nation ready for a jumping off point here, and that's what the next chapters are about, basically, is industrialization. The North will become very much more economically developed, as they already were before the Civil War, and the South is going to struggle to become economically developed. It's going to be more of a rural type of feel, more of a rural society, and that's going to determine the kind of political outcomes. In the North, they're going to have diverse groups come together, and they have kind of a two-tiered society, a white landowning and poor white not landowning part of the country, united against African Americans. African Americans are going to be seen as sharecroppers, as they already were, and Jim Crow laws are going to define the South, separate and unequal. Race relations will continue to be difficult issues shaping American society. In 1898, the Supreme Court will rule in Plessy versus Ferguson that separate is okay as long as equal facilities are provided, which basically means segregation will be legal for many, many, many years. So that's Reconstruction. In the next chapters, we'll talk about industrialization, immigration, and urbanization.